everyone, welcome to the 5 Beer Plan. I'm Brian, and this is the ongoing saga of an everyman's ale trail. In this episode, I'll talk about sour beer, finish off my interview with Huston Lett from Bastet Brewing in Tampa, Florida, and review A Snowbird's Dream by FBP Homebrew Project. In this segment of Tales from the Trail, I'll satisfy my hop tart craving and talk about sour beers. So what is a sour beer? Quite simply, it is a beer that has characteristically sour, tart, or acidic flavors associated with it. And yes, it is done on purpose. Clearly, sour beer is not for everyone. Especially in today's top-heavy NEIPA market, such funky flavors take a little getting used to. I know it did for me. Traditionally, sour beers can be a Belgian Lambic or Goose, a Flanders Red Ale, or a German Gose or Berliner Weiss. Even though brewers usually strive to keep their brewhouse clean and sanitary, sour beers thrive when the door is thrown wide open to wild yeast strains. This can be done by using barrels or even a coolship, which are vessels that will accept these yeast for spontaneous fermentation. Wild yeast strains, such as Lactobacillus and Pediococcus, are most often the culprits responsible for such sour beers, which can take months or even years to properly develop in a barrel. In recent years, American craft brewers have riffed off these base styles to get all sorts of aroma and flavor profiles that we tend to describe as sour or tart. You might see on a bottle that a beer is in the style of on the label or can. This is because they are not truly sour beers in the traditional sense. The difference is this. In order to maintain brewing schedules, brewers will use a method called kettle souring. This is a quick turnaround method to sour a beer in a kettle and not a barrel. This is accomplished by employing a method called sour mashing. This is where the wort is boiled as normal, cooled, and then injected with lactobacillus. This liquid is left to chill in the kettle to let lacto do its work. After a few days, the normal brewing process ensues with this inoculated wort. Boil, add hops, cool, add yeast, and then ferment. Due to this simplified method, kettle sours will usually have a more one-dimensional flavor profile, tartness. So does that disqualify them from being delicious? Absolutely not, but they again are not a sour in the traditional sense. Looking back at my beer history, it is clear that it has taken my palate some time to embrace the flavor profiles from traditional sour beers. But that's what makes it interesting when traveling your ale trail. If beer was all the same, it would be a very boring journey. I've had more than one brewer that I've interviewed longing to make it to Belgium to enjoy these traditional sours at the source. My recommendation would be to go to your local bottle shop and find a bottle of a mid-range traditional Belgian Lambic or Goose that comes in the larger 375 milliliter bottles and experience it with a friend or two. Step out of your comfort zone and sidle up to the sour. You might be surprised at what you find. In this segment of Homebrew Hijinks, it's time for another segment on bottling. Bottling can be one of the most challenging parts of the brewing process, as I would soon find out. Since I had introduced adjuncts to the fermenter in the form of hop pellets and fresh passion fruit, this additional content would prove to be a bit challenging. Every beer is different, but all of them will contain some amount of trub. This is the brewer's term for the sediment that falls to the bottom of the fermenter that contains yeast, proteins, and late addition matter. As is good practice, I prepped my equipment for bottling by submerging bottles, caps, tubing, and bottle filler in the no-rinse disinfectant solution prepared in my 1-gallon pitcher. It is necessary to ensure that all surfaces are in contact with that solution for at least a few seconds. I put all the bottles in the dish drainer and began connecting my hose, filler, and fermentation jug. I opened the spigot on the fermenter and dispensed 1/2 cup of beer into a measuring cup. I poured it into my test vessel and measured the specific gravity with my hydrometer. I got a reading which really did not make much sense to me. Likely, the beer is somewhere in the 3 to 4% range, but it is definitely something I need to understand and address moving forward. So, not wanting to expose the beer to more oxygen than necessary and risk contamination, I left the passion fruit seeds that were floating on top of the beer alone, hoping they would not interfere with my bottling. I opened the spigot on the fermenter and began to dispense the beer. I filled my first bottle, capped it, and everything looked great. The second one went pretty well also. The third bottle is where the trouble started. I began to see passion fruit seeds making their way down the tubing. Eventually, a sufficient number of these seeds made their way down the 4-foot length of tubing and plugged the bottle filler, rendering it useless. Knowing it was not going to improve even if I cleaned it, I had to make a quick decision. I closed the spigot on the fermenter, removed the bottle filler, and then drained the beer that remained in the tubing into a measuring cup I had nearby. The remaining bottles were filled simply by putting the tubing in the bottle and opening and closing the spigot for each fill. It wasn't ideal, but it worked in a pinch. Clearly, some of the seeds made it into the bottles using this method, but I had to roll with it. After finishing, I marked the caps on the bottles that had a little extra sediment than expected so that I could warn my friends when they poured their beer. I cleaned up my mess, placed the bottles in the basement for a 2-week bottle conditioning, and crossed my fingers. I'll share my thoughts later on in the episode. Now, it's time for Barstool Banter. Listen in as I wrap up my conversation with Huston Lett from Bastet Brewing, where we talk about their tap room, go off on a tangent with Tampa Bay Beer Week, and intermix our chat with the topic of beer. We've talked about your food a little bit, your tap room. I love the decoration. It's simple. Like you said, it is very intentional. It's different and unique. How many can you seat there?
This is the 89 seat tap room. We typically tell people 85 because if it's that busy, then we're gonna have like at least 3 people all behind the bar.
Right.
I think our last cooking class, we had about 50 people that were in the cooking class and about 25 or so patrons in here, and it got pretty packed. But there was still a lot of room. There was no chairs, but there was still a lot of room.
Okay,
Um,
hold the presses here. A cooking class.
oh,
Come on,
so
seriously?
yeah. So
I
so
love to
yeah,
grill, smoke, cook. I mean, I'm all over the place. And I'm a huge foodie myself, and it shows. But tell me
yeah.
about the cooking class. That's
Okay.
awesome.
So yeah, we're big foodies. We don't actually put the cooking class on. So
Okay.
we've teamed up with Chef Renee. He is the founder of Taco Bus down here. He ended up selling that later, and now he has Renee's Kitchen. That's his new food truck, and he does cooking classes. And he's kind of created a little home base here with us.
Okay.
Just this Cinco de Mayo, he did a 5-course meal, 5 different moles, even including the dessert. Had like a decadent mole.
Uh-huh.
He did like a pink pine nut mole. It was amazing. It was on top of pork.
Oh.
It was good. So he did that, and we did tapache, which is a Mexican fermented pineapple. But I also did we called it unsalted rim. I did a margarita style fruit beer. So he was pairing food with that, and but he does them, every couple months or so.
Okay.
Sometimes every month. It all depends. He's doing one next month. It's a Mexican vegan 5-course meal. Same thing. He'll do some smaller ones. He talks about it at these pairings, but the smaller class ones, he'll actually grill it and explain the technique and how it's made. He did one with it's like the Mexican version of paella. So it's like the yellow rice with seafood and mussels. It's a lot of fun. He does those. He also provides our chips and salsa that we sell out of here.
Okay.
Are fantastic. So yeah, we started working with him a while back, and it's just been a really good relationship. Well, one, the chips and salsa, it helps, people get a snack to, other than the snacks that we have. We just have chips and stuff, and pretzels, but his chips and salsa, if somebody wants a little more, then they can share with their friends. That helped out. So that's how it started. He was like, hey, why don't we do this? And hey, you want to do this? I'm like, yeah, chef, that sounds good. He keeps the people happy and fed, and, they, with those pairings, I think he buys your first beer with your food, and then there's a fee for those, and then
Sure.
everybody's like on their own after that. They end up being really good events.
Nice.
We had it packed in here.
Yeah, I like the layout of your tap room. I really do. It's just kind of long and narrow as opposed to just kind of big and square.
That was also very intentional because we've always had the mindset of I was going to be back there doing the brewing, Tom was going to be running in front of the house, so we compromised some space in the back to provide a bigger tap room for such a small outfit.
Yeah.
It's just me, so as long as I can reach stuff and get to it, we were very strategic in how we placed our tanks and where we placed hoses. We even have floor joists over our cooler, and we can walk up there for storage, all so we could have this longer kind of galley style tap room.
Yeah. How big of a system do you have there?
5-barrel system, and depending on the style, like for some loggers I'm cranking out, Ashtown can handle, and then my kettle, I have a lot of headspace, so I can do 6-barrel batches on lighter grain bills, heavier grain bills, 5 max, but the loggers, the females, the blondes, I can crank out 6 barrels actually.
On your social media, like a week or so ago, you had unveiled a really cool piece of tech that I'd never heard about before. Can you tell my listeners about the spunding valve and what it does?
Oh, yeah, and spawning is just, I mean, it's something that's been used for a long time. Most people have to pay extra for a spawning valve. My tanks came with spawning valves.
Okay.
Spawning valves are great, man. They basically like you naturally carbonate a beer. And the spawning valve, when fermentation is happening, you seal it off and it allows the CO2 that's being made during fermentation to absorb into the beer. And then when it exceeds the predetermined level that you set it at, it'll just breathe through the valve.
Okay.
So it's a way of naturally carbonating the beer. Some brewers, some purists say that it's a nicer, more elegant bubble. For me, I like to use it because it helps me get close to carbonation volume naturally. If I need to carb through the carb stone in the end, I won't have to do it very much. The debate is that forced carbing, you get those harsh, carbonatey, more carbonic acid in the taste, and
Right.
it helps with the perceived bitterness to make it seem more bitter. So I don't use it all the time. People don't realize we're a brewery and a winery because you have to be a winery to do ciders. So some
Okay.
of my ciders towards the end, I like to do that because, and you have to wait towards the end because ciders produce a lot of sulfur. And when it's closed fermentation, the sulfur can't really escape the fermenter. So the Germans have been doing it for a long time, using spundings, and we use them here. But like I said, no, you don't need them. But when you have them, like why not use them? I talked about that on IG. So Tom came up with the idea of doing kind of like just a production post, once a week, whether it be about a beer coming out, a piece of equipment, something just for the learning aspect. We love to learn. People say all the time, "Hey, do you read about beer?" And I'm like, "Yeah, all the time." Like, why would you not? You know what I mean? Like, you can't really get complacent in doing the same thing. I hate the term like, oh, well, we've always done it this way. I hate that because there's always a better way and there's always going to be different best practices going forward. There's these cool guys that I look at and follow, and, they're experimenting. They're doing the stuff that we don't have time to do, and they're offering this information out there. Like, why would you not read it? Our kind of thought on that was to share it with the world, the people that are interested. And like you just said, you didn't know about that piece of equipment at all, and you learned about that. So that's a win for us just by you saying that. People come in here and they're like, "Hey, can you take me in the back?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." Most brewers and most beer nerds or even home brewers, all we like to talk about is beer. So twist my arm, yeah,
Well, I'm going to ask that next time. What's your favorite style of beer? You kind of alluded to the fact you have one.
Oh, yes. So my favorite style is lagers. All lagers, Vienna lager, Munich Pilsners, Helles, Baltic Porters, Italian Pilsner, Bohemian Pilsner, like lager. And it's not for the fact that it's trendy and all brewers like lagers. Lagers are near and dear to me because they kind of started my journey in craft. I used to bartend for some of the parties when I worked at the firm with Tom because I actually started in the mailroom before I became a graphic designer. They had Bitburger Pills at this party, and I just remember tasting it and was blown away. It's a basic Pilsner, but it's way more amazing than the big box macro crap that I was drinking
Right.
at the time. You know what I mean? So like that started my journey. I remember just being blown away. This was a long time ago. I actually wasn't even, well, I may or may not have been old enough to drink. So craft beer, we didn't really have a lot of American craft beer. But I remember at the time, this place called Beverage Castle, they used to have those 5-liter kegs that you put in your fridge and like Pittsburgher, and they had like Whitaker. So I used to buy those, and then I started going to Dunderbox when Dunderbox was in the mall. It's a German deli slash tap house. So that's why I like lagers. I've always liked them. I also love lagers because I appreciate the technique to make them. It's the kit and gloves it takes to monitor through fermentation. A lot of people say brewing lagers are hard. No, brewing lagers aren't hard. Brewing and making the work isn't hard. Monitoring and make sure your fermentation is top notch to make sure, just make sure there's no DMS, make sure you boil it long enough, making sure it really passed VDK and you don't have diacetyl, fermenting at the right temps to avoid those off flavors. That's why I like them, because pretty as hell. Tell me they're not. They're
Yes, they're
clear. You can read
gorgeous.
a paper through them. You know what
Yep,
I mean?
yep.
The good ones at least. They taste that much better knowing that, damn, they had to go through all that and this was the end result. Because there's a lot of things that can go wrong with the lager.
Do you have a least favorite style?
Roush beers, smoky beers. Smoky
Okay,
beers are another thing. I like smoked food. I like smoked scotch. I like peaty. It could be Highlands or Isla. It could be peaty. It could be barbecue smokiness of the Highlands. But in beer, for some reason, it just rubs me the wrong way, man. I just
okay.
don't like smoky beers.
Yeah, that's all right. So we missed the Tampa Beer Week by just a couple of weeks. Does Bastet participate in that at all?
Yeah, so Tampa Bay Beer Week is amazing. We all look forward to it. Matter of fact, the halfway there event is literally when they have that event, it's halfway to when beer week's in again. That they started sprinkling events in because we just get super excited about beer week. Beer week is great, and yes, we participate every year. We did the Florida Brewers Guild Fest. It's where everybody that's a member of the guild can pour. We love that event because it's people high as the Panhandle in Florida, as low as the Keys,
Okay.
and they all come up here. Just this huge festival at Perry Harvey Park, and it's a cool networking thing. It's cool. It's cool to see a lot of the breweries that you don't really get their stuff, because a lot of us are small that don't distro very far, and the ones that do distro, they kind of do in their greater area. So I get super excited about it, especially some of my favorite breweries in Orlando, which is an hour and a half away. But
Right.
I sometimes don't even make it to my favorite breweries that are 20 minutes up the road. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's super exciting. But it usually starts with the Ultimate Brew, which is pretty awesome. But this year they did a IPA, and every brewery that wanted to participate could bring a few ounces of their favorite hop, and then they dry hopped it right there at the event with your hops that you brought in. The beer was pretty interesting, and it was a cool experience, and it was a cool event. Drank some beer, we talked to other brewers, and then that Saturday is the FBG Fest, Florida Brewers Guild Fest, which is great. And then the Sunday is usually Brewers Ball, and that's one of my favorite events. We actually didn't go this year because we didn't participate. So it's for the best Florida beer competition. All the medals are presented that day. All of the beers that medaled and were like honorable mention or best of show are there on tap. Nobody has a man in their booth. So all the brewers, all the patrons and fans, and they're all just networking, having fun, and kind of just blowing off steam. It's all self serve, so you go up to the tab, you can pour your own beer. So no one has to really do. I mean, there's some volunteers there, but it's not nearly like you manning your booth with your beer. So
Right.
it's no work, no fuss for the brewers. That was one of the best events. And then, that week, different breweries and different bars, like Independent and stuff, like they have these cool events throughout the entire week. The TampaBayBrewing.com will post all of the events that's going on, so you can kind of pick and choose the ones you want to go to. It's just a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of cool events. Some of them food related, some of them not. Some of them with some very big hype breweries. Oh, one week Independent had one of had the McKellar guy. You get some cool stuff, and then that following weekend used to be Hunapu Day, but I don't think they're gonna have Hunapu Day again. But they do the Hunapu release. I think Seven Sun does Hunapu Hangover Party. It's just a lot of stuff. That whole week is chock full of local Tampa Bay beer events, and it's just great time to support local Tampa Bay breweries.
From the little bit of information I would see posted around, I thought, oh my gosh, this would be like the best week ever. It'd be like
It's
spring break, but like better.
It's a lot, man. I'm kind of glad, honestly, because I'm getting a little older now. I'm kind of glad that I don't go as hard, because I remember when it would start. So it starts on that Friday, but Wednesday, I'm like, do we really want to keep doing this? I'm pretty sure my liver wants a body transplant. You know what I mean?
But like you said, I mean, it's a great opportunity to try things from places that you don't get to on a regular basis just because, I mean, 6 days a week, I mean, you're on, and then you've got to find time for your family. So, I mean,
Yeah,
it just doesn't leave a whole lot of extra time. So why not double dip that way? That's cool.
absolutely,
That's cool.
absolutely. And then Brewers Ball having all those medal winning beers under one festival is
Yeah.
amazing. Like it's I'm telling you, it's a really, really good experience.
Now, is that open to the public as well?
Public can get theirs online, and yeah, it's a great time. It's literally everybody that's geeked about craft beer. Everybody, like
Cool.
from owners to brewers to just normal people that just love beer.
Is there a beer out there that you've always wanted to try, but due to distribution or maybe seasonal nature haven't been able to have?
Not really, man. I'm not really a big whale hunter,
Mm-hmm.
and or hey, I need to try this. And typically, if I can't get to it, it's just like whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
will say I have tried one that I do want. Word on the street that they're gonna bottle it now is Pliny the Younger. I tried Pliny the Younger. It's my friend at Crowler of it. He waited in that long line,
Okay.
but then this lady came with her boyfriend. They were from out there, and she works there. And she said that they were working on bottling it. I haven't really looked to see. Maybe they're bottling it now. But they gave us a bottle. Pliny's been one of my favorite beers, and it's still one of my favorite beers because it hasn't deviated from what it was in the beginning. They
Yeah.
haven't tweaked it, or if they did a good job of keeping it on the radar.
Yeah.
Because I just tried it recently. It tastes just like I remember. It's what an IPA was before hazies came along, which
Right.
I like hazies. Like clearly, I'm drinking one. However, sometimes you want hoppy, piney, resinous IPA, not a delicate hoppy. But Pliny has the malt, and then it has the dry finish. To me, it's a nearly perfect beer.
Yeah.
And I remember Younger being a nice, smaller, sessionable version of that. So if I can get some bottles of that, that would be fantastic. So I would say that's probably my answer, Pliny the
Okay.
Younger.
I've had Elder. I have a coworker who lives in California who sent me a 4 pack of that. Really good
Yeah,
stuff.
man,
So,
good stuff, good stuff.
and I've always
I,
wanted
you
to get out
know,
there myself to try it from the tap. I think that'd be really cool.
I'm all for the resurgence of regular IPAs. Like I said, I like hazy, but I think there's a trend change, man. I think it's shifting a little bit. Hazy is clearly not going to go anywhere, but I see more and more, and we're one of them. I see more and more breweries that have West Coast on at all time, and we always have a West Coast on here, and I'm seeing them pop up more and more now. I hope I'm right, but I'm hoping they're gonna come back.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things. I think when I first had an IPA 10, 15 years ago, maybe longer, it was like the worst thing in the world. I mean, that big hop, piney, resiny. Well, because at that time I was doing the stouts, right? So it was like maybe a Guinness, maybe a Beck's Dark, because that was like fancy back in the
Yeah,
day. And now I look back at how my palate has changed over the years. Looking
yep,
back over the last 7 years, some of those big piney resinous IPAs, the Americans that I'd had early on, which I was like, this is awful. Now I love the things because of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
hoppy, piney, resinous factor. Like you said, there's only so many hazies and big IPAs you can drink because it does. Like I have to take Tums like at the end of the night if I have too many.
I agree.
And I don't know if it's just because they're too heavy or if it's because of lactose or because of the dry hop. I don't know what the deal is.
Me personally, for me, I know it's the dry hop. It's the hops. For me,
Okay.
the older I'm getting, the hops don't like me as much. It's crazy, man. Like I wasn't like that before.
Yeah. One last fun question for you. If you were a beer, what style would you be and why?
Oh Lord. Uh,
If you don't have an answer, that's fine.
I'm up for the challenge. I would say maybe a doppelbock.
Okay.
For obvious reasons, I'm dark. Another reason, strong, and if I like it, I can be a little sweet. So yeah, I'm gonna go with doppelbock.
I like that a lot. That's a great descriptor, man. Well, listen, Houston, I don't want to hold you up any longer. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. It's been fantastic getting to know you a little bit, hearing a little bit about your backstory, and just seeing the love you have for the craft that you're brewing. I can't wait to get down there again and have another beer with you, man.
I appreciate it, man. It's good talking to you, and I can't wait till you come back.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Last call.
It's nearly time to wrap things up, but first, one more for the road. This episode, I'm drinking a Snowbird's Dream by FBP Homebrew Project. From the brewer, Inspired by the mouth-puckering sour flavor of fresh-picked passion fruit in the Florida winter, this beer employs mosaic hops during the boil and a dry hop of Citra. Adding the fresh passion fruit late in the fermentation gives it a great tropical vibe. Without further delay, so this is a 3.7% ABV fruited sour with fresh passion fruit added late in the fermentation as mentioned. It pours kind of a straw color, very, very light, very faint color. It definitely has some nice fruit aroma on the nose. I'm getting some of that passion fruit, a little bit of citrus there. So first sip impression. So this has a quite a nice sour profile to it. It has from the Mosaic, which is a super complex hop, it certainly has a nice citrusy profile. A little bit of maybe some stone fruit in there, but certainly with that Citra dry hop, it adds just a nice layer of citrus aroma on here. Also on the palate, I'm definitely getting some of that great kind of lactic acid feel. So it's kind of sour in the middle and then just kind of finishes with a bit of a dryness on the end. I'll be honest, when I was brewing this up, I was excited. When you have in your mind's eye how you expect a beer to come out flavor-wise, aroma-wise, this beer came very close to what I was expecting. It's got just a little bit of that sour funk on the nose, which I like, and it's got a little bit of zippiness to it, just a little bit of tang as you're drinking it. It's a great first effort for a sour, I'll be honest. And one of the things I want to just do is give a shout out to Joe Stang, who helped me out with this. It was his recipe that I took and actually tweaked it a little bit. For what it's worth, one of the things that I've been trying to do is find recipes online that are accessible and tweak them a little bit, make them my own. And I figure there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I think you can learn just as much about home brewing with other people's recipes and tweaking them as you can doing trial and error. So one of the things that I really liked was the fact that when I found this recipe, I asked Joe a scat of questions. And he was so very prompt and helpful in replying and giving me feedback. So I just want to give Joe Stang a big cheers. Thank you so much for helping out, sir. And honestly, what you see is what you get with this beer. I did struggle a little bit, I'll be honest, with some of the adjuncts. I couldn't figure out quite how to get the passion fruit into the fermenter and not have it end up in the bottle. So fishing out a few passion fruit seeds in the bottom of some of my beer here. So the thing I really like about this beer is it's got a very bright kind of citrusy flavor to it. It isn't heavy. It's just really light and flavorful and super refreshing. It's definitely one that I would be happy to brew again if given the opportunity. The problem is getting some of that fresh passion fruit that I need from the Florida winter. So overall, I give this one a solid 4 tasters out of 5 on the flight board. Cheers, FBP Homebrew Project. Well, if you've got a beer you'd like me to drink and describe, leave a comment below. If you're a brewer and have one in mind, direct message me on Instagram and let's see what we can do. That's all for this episode of the 5 Beer Plan. With so many podcasts out there, thanks for choosing to listen to mine. Join me next time for an enterprising segment of Looking for Lupulin, a slight twist on my next homebrew project, and the first half of my conversation with Taylor Gant from Ology Brewing. Remember to hit the subscribe button to be notified of new episodes. I'd love to hear from you, so please follow me on Instagram, 5beerplan 2022, and leave a comment to let me know what one of your favorite sour beers is. Be sure to support your local breweries, choose your beers wisely, and drink them responsibly. Until next time, keep walking your ale trail, and stay thirsty, my friends!